Hi, everyone. Welcome to Konveyor Community Meeting. Today is June 15th. We abide by Konveyor Code of Conduct, which means please be nice to one another. This meeting will be recorded and available on YouTube for later viewing. I'm Savita, and I'm your host today. I am going to jump into the topics. If we have any new members, welcome to our community meeting. If you want to say hi, please feel free to. I'm going to pause for a minute. Right, I don't think I can do a minute. I am not good with silence. So I am going to move on to the topics, and we have like jam-packed good demos today. So the first up is from Celestino. Celestino, whenever you're ready, please take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. Sharing my screen. So this demo is about the small work, it's more a hack rather than a real modification that I did for customizing a little bit the questionnaire that is used by Pathfinder. So why I did that? Because my company is starting to use Konveyor for modernizing applications portfolio for our customers. And we wanted to have a more generic questionnaire to start with, and then maybe tailor the questions and the possible answers to the actual customer that will be doing the assessment. So I have here my local Pathfinder running. I can get the questionnaire. I have just one questionnaire active, which is the way that Pathfinder works now. What can I do? I can create an assessment with the questions already bundled in Pathfinder. And this script basically gets the assessment ID produced by the post call that the API, the post API that I call for later use. So if I inspect this, I would say that there is the assessment ID, and then I use it to get the actual assessment produced by the default questionnaire. And if I go online, there is a question actually that I want to change, which is too specific, and it's not generic enough for my use case, which is the question is, does the application require specific hardware? And the answer, one of the answer is requires CPU that is not supported by Red Hat. That's too specific for my use case. I want to make it more generic. So what I do, I open a file that is under SRC main resources schemas, and it's in the same version of the old Pathfinder questionnaire. So I haven't invented anything here. And I find the relevant question, should be on line 80, yes. And I have modified here the answer to be a more generic one. So what this syntax says is answer number one, risk red, text requires CPU architecture other than the classic ones. Okay. So what I do now is I go back to my process and I trigger a restart. And if you can read here, it says that questionnaire has been migrated to version 0.02. I will explain what that means afterwards, but the important thing is that if I now call again the existing question, the existing assessment, I will get the very same answer with the Where is it? I have still the answer requires CPU that is not supported by Red Hat. That's because the assessment has been already created. But for new ones, if I create an assessment for application ID 2, for instance, it's a new one, and then I get the new questionnaire for it, I will see that I have my new question here, along with others. I mean, I can remove pages from the questionnaire. I can add pages. I can add questions. I can add answer to them, and I can define different risk. The code will translate the old Pathfinder format into the database-based format of the new Pathfinder, and it will use it afterwards. The old questions and old pages and on category, I believe it's the name of the entity now, won't be deleted. They will be logically deleted, so they will still be available for old assessment, but won't be used anymore for new ones. The modification, just briefly, the modification that I made was on the database itself. I created two migration scripts, one to define the version on the questionnaire, and that's default 001. That's why I created the 002 now. And then I added a slug on the category, which in the JSON terminology is called page, because otherwise I wouldn't have had any way of understanding if a category exists already or not when applying modifications. So in short, when you have to create your own questionnaire, you just modify this JSON file and add your question as you wish. Just make sure that the version is a greater version than an existing one or a different one. Don't really check for that version to be greater than the actual one, the current one. After that, you can build your own Pathfinder Docker image and publish on your Docker registry of choice. And then you can customize. You can either use the script, the install tackle script from the tackle2 operator repo to start and configure and use your custom image, or you can directly modify if you're applying a tackle descriptor. You can already modify. I'll show you here. You can already modify the image that it's being used by modifying its specification. So that would be pretty much all. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Celestino. That was a wonderful demo.
Thank
And
you.
if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out in the Conveyor Slack channel and or the mailing list.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Next up is Pranav from the Analyzer Demo D. Or Sean, I don't know if it's going to be Pranav or Sean. I see both of them.
Yeah, I'll be just quickly going over highlights of the milestone that we reached as part of the demo D. that we are calling in analyzers. So I'll just quickly share my screen and go over some of the highlights of the milestone. So uh, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Until now we have we have been doing community demos for the past A, B, and C demos we did. This is a continuation on that. Uh, the big highlight of the demo was that uh, we basically took efforts to make analyzers ready for integration into Conveyor. So a lot of work that happened was around this area. So that was the main theme of this milestone. As part of that, we worked on a bunch of things. First thing was meeting in terms of the CLI features, meeting the parity with windup. What that means is that we now have all the features that the windup CLI supports. Uh, uh, I wouldn't say all, but everything that we need for the dynamic reports and the alpha release. Uh, Next big chunk was the support for decompilation. In the last meeting, I think David already did a demo on decompiling year, var, and jar files and passing that as input to analyzers. Today, we'll be looking at another demo, uh, uh, which is the following thing on the decompilation thing, and that is basically getting code locations from jars that were downloaded by the language server. So far, we were only seeing locations of the jar files and the actual code locations and code snippets. Uh, I think code snippets were good, but the file URIs uh, were not good because they were pointing to a jar file which was not decompiled. So that's a big improvement on the decomp part. Next thing, we also froze the API. So we now have a proper Viven rule format. We have the user-facing hub API, which is frozen, and we also made some changes in how providers were handled. Oh, and a big thing about providers there, we added support for the gRPC providers, which Sean did another demo in the last meeting. We added support for label selectors and getting the targets and sources on a rule set from the windup rules. And finally, we improved some documentation. Uh, in windup shim, we addressed a bunch of issues there. We are now capturing all of the metadata from old windup rules into the new LSP format. We are also catching fields that are not supported, but we are basically converting them into labels. We made some changes in uh, uh, rule sets. We made changes in the rule sets generation part to help with seeding into Conveyor Hub. And we also added some more rules from discovery rules and some built-in rules in windup that are generating the application facts. I'm just going to put some links here. We have a link to the windup shim repo. We have a link to the analyzer repo, and there's a GitHub board which is tracking the next set of work that we are doing. Big highlights from the future work are we are adding support for the .NET uh, provider. Then we are working on analysis modes, supporting different analysis modes in for the Java provider, meaning uh, options like including, excluding specific packages, uh, differentiating between dependencies based on where they come from, things like that. And we will also be making some fixes and improvements for the next alpha release. Yeah, that's about it on the highlights of the demo. Next, I think Sean, you can take it away. Uh, Sean will be demoing the decompilation part. Oh, oh. Sean, you.
Actually, if it's cool, I might just do the CI stuff. I think Sean might be doing some last minute adjustments to his demo.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll go ahead and run through the CI stuff real quick, and then we can pop back to him.
Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm just going to run through some sort of pretty early kind of foundational work to provide a global CI system for the Konveyor org that should help us get to the point where we can kind of release more quickly and more confidently. So I kind of hijacked this Konveyor CI repo that Merrick made. These badges were already here. These are just kind of collecting the past badges for various components. And then I've also added these kind of release nightlies here. And if we look at what these like release nightlies contain, here, for example, is the release 0.1 nightly tests. You can see we've got 4 integration tests up. We've got 1 end-to-end API test that's basically just like spinning up all the components and then interacting directly with the hub API to determine if anything's broken. We have a similar thing with the UI integration tests. They're not currently passing, but that's fine. They're not expected to pass yet. That's kind of a work in progress. So we can see the runs produce these nicely formatted summaries. So you can look at the nightlies and see we're failing, roughly a little bit under half of the UI tests in the upstream right now. And we get these little reports here, which we can dig into. So if you download and unpack one of those, you'll have a package of JUnit results for all of the failed tests. And you'll also have and this is a Cypress feature, we're just capturing it. Cypress will give you screenshots for all of the UI tests that failed. So if you have run these against changes you've made, you can actually get screenshots for all of the failing tests. So that's all pretty cool, and that's all kind of captured in the results here. And if you included these in a pull request, you get the same report on your action run. So the meat of what I did for this is just including this reusable workflow called Global CI in the CI repo. From the perspective of another project within Konveyor, you don't really need to worry about like specifically what it does. You just have to look at these inputs. And basically what it lets you do is it lets you specify a tag. This tag will determine the tag for all of the images that are pulled. So if you specified release 0.2, you would pull the release 0.2 image, which we produce for all of the components. And you'd be running the release 0.2 version of the upstream Konveyor. You can specify a component name. This is used for if you're including this workflow on a pull request, and so you have a custom build of a single component of Konveyor and you want to swap that out. You can basically upload the build image for it to an artifact that's named the same as the component, specify the component name when you import this workflow, and it'll automatically pick it up and it'll run it with that component replaced. We've got a couple flags for enabling and disabling tests, and we've also got flags for referencing specific commits or specific branches or specific PRs of the different test repositories that are enabled here. So, for example, here I've got a draft PR up that supports Cypress Split. Cypress is the UI testing tool. Cypress Split is a tool that allows you to split it up more. So right now on the nightlies, we've got it split into 3. It still takes a little bit of time. So I was just playing with what if we split it up into like 8 using this tool, or even further, to try to get that test time down a little bit. And you can see here, I just say UI test PR 503. That references a corresponding PR in the Tackle UI test repository, pull request 503. And that enables Cypress Split. So I can use kind of this system for, if I've broken a test or I'm using features that don't currently exist, I can actually reference a coexisting PR in either of the test repositories and develop them simultaneously, so that we can avoid that situation where you've broken CI and need to merge changes in order to get it to pass. Now we can make sure that it passes and then merge both changes together. We have the same thing for the Golang tests. This GitHub just requires you to put stuff in twice for workflow dispatch. So these are all the exact same inputs. If you're interested, I will just toss this link in there. I don't necessarily need to go through everything that it's doing. You don't have to worry too much about it. But I can show you how you would use it. For example, in the Analyzer LSP, we have enabled the integration tests. So at the end of our demo testing, we build our images, we run the demo image, etc. And then I've added these 2 tasks to the very end of the job. And that task is to save our image as a tar file, upload it as an artifact to the run with the name Analyzer LSP. And then here I've set up a second job, end to end, which imports, sorry, this probably is too small, which imports our global CI job that's over here and specifies the Analyzer LSP component name. And basically the global CI will pull this tar file, pull the image out of it, load it up into Minikube, and deploy the operator with the, if not present, image pull policy, and all the runs will be with this most updated version of the Analyzer LSP, but without having to push it up to a separate registry or anything like that. And here is a example run with a pull request. So we've imported the ETE stuff. We've run the ETE integration test. And currently, because the ETE UI integration tests aren't running, I've actually globally disabled them. So if you don't manually enable the UI tests, you won't have them now, and it'll stay like that until we have them stable and passing in a relatively short amount of time, because we don't want flaky tests or tests that are red all the time. And that style will stay. So basically, if you import this test, the only breakages that you would ever have to worry about are the breakages that you're actually causing. If a test suite becomes flaky or there's a big bug or anything like that, because it's all existing in this global CI thing, we'd be able to globally disable them temporarily while we fix them and not have it be, everybody's problem that CI is broken. So that's hoping to avoid like some of the pain that comes from, I don't know if anyone's worked like the OpenShift CI system or something like that, but it can be kind of a pain. So let's see what else. Oh yeah, so here's just a quick how you would set up the nightly jobs. So this is the nightly main branch. It specifies the main branch of the UI test, the API tests, and I set it to yes, run the UI tests for now because this is just our nightlies. If you want to run the release 01 tests, it's the same thing, different references, and we can basically just like add a workflow file like this to CI and get nightlies for whatever release or whatever tag we have. That is where we're at with CI at the moment. There is a proposal up that Merrick made on what the actual tests should look like in the long term. I didn't focus too much on that with these changes to the CI repo. This is mostly focused on getting started, creating a centralized place where we can add global tests that we have, where we can collect the runs, and where we can provide workflows to allow people to easily enable them for their projects. So if you're interested on like what the tests themselves look like in the long term and where those should live, definitely check out Merrick's enhancement proposal there. And yeah, feel free to poke around in the global workflow. It's got some kind of weird stuff going on. I thought it was pretty interesting. Any questions?
Yeah, that is super easy to set up. I didn't know it was so easy to do on the analyzer repo. I can take a look, but yeah. Super.
Wait, didn't you approve that PR?
Oh, I did? No.
That does look very cool. So Sean, I don't know if you need more time. If you do, I can do my UI demo first. It's up to you.
Yeah, let's do the UI demo.
All right, let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to walk through the new issues section of the UI, which is a big chunk of our new dynamic reports feature. It represents a lot of cool reusable work under the hood. So I'll step through and then talk a little bit about that. So we've got this new issues section on the nav here. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep,
cool.
Looks good.
All right, so you click issues here, and this is mock data right now, but it is using the new Hub API endpoints all the way down. So once we run a real analysis, this should just work. I just have mock data in here to simplify the demo. So we've got two tabs here: all issues and single application. The all issues tab is what I'm going to be focusing on demoing today. These are rule reports under the hood in the Hub. They're issues deduplicated by rule set and rule. So you can see basically all of the names of the problems you have from your analysis. You can expand these, see how many applications were affected, what the source and target texts are, any labels that are here, and then a description here. And this will probably be more verbose here. This is just a mock description. This is all coming from the Hub. And one of the things we did here is implement server-side pagination, filtering, sorting, all of that. So this is scalable to many issues. The rest of the UI is all doing that stuff on the client. So this is kind of one of the first views where we're doing that on the server through the Hub, and it's really scalable and nice. So if I click on the affected applications here, you can see we've got a list of the applications that are affected by this rule. And real quick before I dig deeper, I can go back. And you can see that if I filter by application name, it filters the state of the world here, and we've got affected applications 1. So no matter what filter you apply here, it's going to only be talking about the subset of apps that match that filter. And then if we click through, that filter gets retained. And if we clear that filter and go back, the filter changes persist between these two views. So no matter what you're filtering, if it has to do with applications, it'll stick around. So in this applications view, we can click one of these affected apps. And we get a list of the files that are affected in this issue. And there are going to be more tabs added here in the future if we want more detail about at the issue level, which I think is the violation level at the analyzer level. And if we click on a file here, we get a nice modal showing a code snippet with syntax highlighting and the offending line highlighted. There's still a Hub change we need to get these line numbers to be accurate. This should be a subset. This is sort of just mock code, but this is sort of what it'll look like. And then we've got a markdown rendered incident message here. And then the first 5 incidents from this issue all are in tabs with full detail. And then if you have more than 5, you have this all incidents tab that is just a table with a quick summary of the rest of them. We decided to show only the detail of the first 5 to simplify this presentation, and mostly because all of these details are going to be mostly the same for all the incidents of one issue. So if you have a bunch of the same problem, you're probably going to have the same sort of information here for all of them, and you can just kind of see the line numbers of all the places where you have that. This to-do message is going to be something about that limitation. We'll explain. I don't have the final text here, but that'll explain why there's only 5 in detail. So that is the flow from end to end. Just to talk a little bit about what's going on under the hood here, we have some new really nice reusable React hooks for all of the state of these table controls. You can see that if I sort on issue name or if I sort on effort or something, that gets applied in URL parameters up here and makes this all totally compatible with bookmarks and history and stuff. If I go back to the app inventory and press back, we still have my sort. This applies to pagination too. And so it's all driven from the URL parameters up here and then all the way down to URL parameters passed to the Hub API. So scalable, and we'll remember where you're at, and you can bookmark it and all that. Those table hooks are swappable for if you are using Hub pagination or client pagination, filtering, sorting, etc. And it includes the state of which selected row you have. So this drawer is open. I've got a sort here. I can bookmark this. I can go out. If I click that bookmark, I've still got my drawer open once the page loads. And so that hook is also being used and shared by the migration waves and Jira integration views for client-side stuff. So it's the same implementation, just swappable where you're doing that logic, and then it can optionally use React state instead of the URL for, I think this table doesn't bother with the URL, but uses all the same stuff. So that's a much simpler way to plug into the new Patternfly table components. And it is something that we can reuse across any new tables. It'll simplify and speed up making any new tables in this UI. And if we decide to make server-side filtering happen on any of our older tables, it would be a nice thing to refactor into there. And I plan to take as much of that as I can and contribute it back to Patternfly as well. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else to show here. Some filters need to be added here, but most of the rest of this is pretty final. And yeah, does anyone have any questions? Yeah, Pranav.
Hey, yeah, this is looking great. I just have one question about using code snippets. So I'm assuming that part of the code is reusable. I mean that wherever we see a file URI, you can show a code snippet. If we click on that, can we?
Yeah. So the code snip. Sorry. Go ahead.
So I mean, in the other parts of the report, in case if we have something in the future where we are showing code snippets, not just in the issues, but probably in a fact.
Yes. Yeah. So if there is code in right now the code string itself is in the incident object. We're not like pulling this out of the source file.
Right.
It's presented by the hub. But yeah, if we have any code string and we know the language, this code reader is a Patternfly component that we're using in read-only mode that is reusable. It's detecting the language from the file name extension, so that is very reusable. Yeah, if we want to show code anywhere.
Awesome.
And this red
That's
underline awesome. It's a stub trivial implementation of a linter. We can do whatever we want to show whatever feedback on the code we want. It's not running a real linter under the hood, but it's just trivially, hey, there's an error on this line, and we can do stuff like that wherever.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
No problem. And yeah, this is also arbitrary markdown is supported. So if the analyzer wants to put whatever fancy markdown formatting it wants to in the message, that'll get rendered here nicely. And if no one else has any questions, I guess I didn't demonstrate a filter in certain places. This is all hub driven. If we have thousands of files, this filter will apply. It'll all be scalable. And there's also, I forgot to mention, pretty aggressive caching here. Stale while revalidate caching. So you can see it if I go through this pagination. Well, it's not even showing loading states, probably because I already did this. But you'll see a spinner at first when you get to a page, but then it'll all be instant after that, even if you have a pretty slow connection. And then once you've shown the stale data, it'll be fetching in the background. So it's very responsive, nice thing. I don't think I have anything else. If there's no other questions, I'll stop.
Thank you, Mike. That was really cool demo. I love the bookmarking feature because I'm a person who keeps losing things easily. And when I talk to someone, I'm like, oh, where's the page? I'm going to like scramble the last minute. So I think that comes handy for people like me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So does anyone have any questions for Mike? All right. Moving on to Sean. Sean left the meeting. I called Sean. Sean left the meeting. Oh my god. That is not intentional, probably accidental, but yeah. Oh yeah,
There it is.
he's back.
Hello?
Hi,
Hello,
Sean.
hello? Okay, there it's
Are you
going.
mad at me that you have to leave the meeting when I call your name?
No, I'm sorry, my mic is just not. Okay,
Uh,
it's been a morning. I apologize.
Pulling
All
legs. Take it away.
right. How's it going, folks? Okay, so let me know when you can see my screen. Okay. Can folks see the text okay? I mean, I know David can,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
okay. Cool. So I've just run an analysis using the full analysis mode. So if we look up here, you can see that this is what I ended up running with the analysis mode full. We added this new analysis mode in demo D so that we could tell folks to tell the analyzer whether to search across just the source of the code or across everything. So this is overriding any of the provider settings and then telling it to run across all of the things that it knows. So go ahead and run that with the demo rules. And if we roll down, we can actually end up seeing that some of these rules are language reference rules returned with 1,247 matches and then 618. Now, when you do source only, you end up getting like 7 or 8. But when you run it in full, you end up getting all of the references that you find across the entire known universe for this given project. In this known universe, in this given project, what we were looking at was sorry, then. Nice. Okay. Less isn't found? Okay, this is just great. I'll just talk it. So what we'll see once we really there we go. Okay, so what we'll see when we look at the real example is that we're looking for custom resource definition across the entire so language reference 1 returned with 1,247 results, as we saw in the last thing. We're looking for any reference to API extensions v1 custom resource definition and using that type. What this ends up grabbing is also the definitions in all of the libraries that we end up using. So Kate's Fabric IO has a bunch of different definitions that contain custom resource definition, whether that be the list or the list options or a bunch of other things, but they all contain this exact string. So we're seeing these, but it's not used in the source. It's just defined in the dependency. And so if we look at the output, one of the things that we ended up adding. So if we can scroll down to language reference 1. We're going to see that we're finding the things inside of the code itself, inside the source. So you get these file URIs. And then when we find something that's inside of the jar file, we're getting these conveyor JDT URIs. And what we ended up doing was adding the ability to go take these conveyor JDT URIs and still go get the code from them by decompiling the code, pulling out the code snippet from the decompiled code, and then going ahead and returning that code snippet. So this wasn't available before, but now that we can get this information, you can see that this is finding certain things around an adapter that has custom resource definition list in it.
So we're finding now all of the references to that type across the entire fleet, if you will, or all the entire dependencies, and we're able to pull them out of class files by decompiling them. Is there any questions to that? Okay, cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Sean. If anyone has any questions, and if folks want to learn about analyzer or any other SIG of Konveyor, there is a meeting next week which alternates with this one. So all the information is available in the community page. Feel free to take a look at it, or if you need the meeting details, just let me know. Ping me in the Slack or drop a message in the Slack again. I will definitely get back to you all. And there's one more demo, and I don't think we have time. We have 1 minute left, so probably I'm going to move it to the next meeting. And before I end up in this meeting, I want to take a minute to read out the shout outs. So many folks actually helped me put together the demo for app modernization, which I'm going to show in the next meeting. But I just want to take this minute and say thanks to Sean, Fabian, John, Dylan, Ramon, Jeff, and Alma. I think I got everyone. If I missed anyone, I'm really sorry. But thank you all for helping me one way or the other to get the demo going. If you all have any shout outs, if you want to say anything, please feel free to add it to the agenda for this meeting, next meeting, and we will make sure that we will give it a readout in the fall. And I see things about the demos, great demos, and kudos to everyone who presented today. That's all I have. Does anyone have anything else to add? All right, folks, we are at time. I will see you all in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.